What happened to Shaniqua Nickerson? That's the question the 31-year-old's family desperately wants to find the answer to.
She was face down. One hand was in a fist and one hand was like this. While she was face down, her face was smashed in. But nobody has answers.
She was face down. One hand was in a fist, one hand stretched out like this. Her face was smashed in, but nobody has answers. Those are the words of Nikia Nickerson, describing the moment she found her daughter's body on August 31st, 2023. Shaniqua Nickerson was 31 years old, a mother of 3, a woman who loved styling hair for her family and friends. But on that summer day in Cleveland, Ohio, she was discovered dead in her bedroom at a boarding house on Algonac Road. Here's what makes this case so disturbing. Shaniqua lived with 8 to 9 men in that house. Security cameras pointed directly at her bedroom door. The walls were thin enough that neighbors could hear a phone ringing inside her room. Yet when she was beaten so badly, her face was destroyed. When she fought for her life with such force that one hand was still clenched in a fist, no one heard a single scream. Not one person claimed to know anything. This is the story of Shaniqua Nickerson, and the night that silence became complicity. Welcome to Shadows of Crime, where we cover true crime stories that matter, cases that make us question, think, and understand the world around us. If you're passionate about true crime and want to see more cases like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And as we go through this story, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know. Have you ever heard of a case like this in your area? Shaniqua Nickerson was born on May 29, 1992, in Cleveland, Ohio. She had a flair for fashion and beauty that everyone around her noticed. She loved styling hair for her family and friends, turning ordinary moments into something special with her skills and creativity. Those who knew her described Shaniqua as kind-hearted and devoted. She was the type of person who always showed up for the people she cared about. She was reliable too. Her mother, Nikia, made it clear that Shaniqua always paid her rent on time and took care of her responsibilities. Most importantly, Shaniqua was a mother of 3 children. Their names and ages have been kept private to protect them, but her role as their mom was central to everything she did. Shaniqua worked hard to build a stable life. In 2012, she earned her nursing license in home care. The following year, in 2013, she married Lawrence Mays. But by 2023, the status of their relationship had become what reports call a mystery. It's unclear whether they were still together, separated, or divorced. In 2017, Shaniqua achieved another major goal. She earned her GED. This showed her determination to keep moving forward, no matter what challenges she faced. But life wasn't easy. Reports hint at personal struggles. There are mentions of addiction that led to what some called unfortunate choices. These struggles seem to shape some of the decisions Shaniqua made in her final years. By 2023, Shaniqua was focused on one thing: supporting her 3 kids. She worked to provide for them and tried to create stability in their lives. Somewhere around 2022 or 2023, Shaniqua made a decision that would change everything. She moved into a boarding house on Algonac Road in Cleveland's Euclid Green neighborhood. This wasn't a typical living situation. Shaniqua became the only woman living among 8 to 9 male residents. Some reports mention one other woman in the house, but this detail remains unclear. Why did Shaniqua choose this place? Was it financial necessity? Was she looking for temporary housing after a separation? The answers aren't clear, but what is known is that this boarding house became her home. Shaniqua's room was located upstairs in the middle bedroom. There were 3 bedrooms total on that hallway. The house had security cameras positioned directly on her bedroom door and throughout the hallways. These cameras were meant to keep residents safe and monitor who came in and out. Shaniqua's daily routine was simple. She worked, took care of her children, and spent time casually socializing with the people who lived in the house. At night, she had a regular ritual. She would smoke weed with the maintenance man, Robert Brickell. Everyone called him Bobby. He lived in the house and was responsible for keeping the place running. This was Shaniqua's life in the months leading up to August 31st, 2023. A life that seemed ordinary on the surface, but one that would end in a way no one could have expected. In late August of 2023, Shaniqua's life seemed to follow its usual pattern. She spent time with Bobby Brickell, the maintenance man who lived in the boarding house. They had their nightly routine, smoking weed together and talking. One night, Bobby gave Shaniqua half a gummy edible. He said he got it from a store called The Plaza, located nearby. After that, Shaniqua went to her room for the night. The next day, Bobby sent her a text message. "What's up? I'm cooking if you want something to eat." No response. Bobby didn't think much of it at first. But that night, he heard something. Her phone was ringing inside her room. He could hear it clearly through the walls. Still, he didn't see her. He didn't check on her. The phone kept ringing over the next few days. Night after night, Bobby heard it going off in her room. But Shaniqua never answered. She never came out. And Bobby never went in to see if she was okay. Meanwhile, Shaniqua's mother, Nikia, was growing worried. Shaniqua wasn't responding to her calls or text messages. This was completely out of character. Nikia and her daughter communicated regularly. When days went by with no word from Shaniqua, Nikia knew something was wrong. She reached out to Bobby and asked if he had seen her daughter. Bobby told her, "I hear her phone, but I haven't seen her." Nikia couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You heard her phone, but you never checked on her?" Days continued to pass. No one in the house took action. No one knocked on Shaniqua's door. No one called the police to do a welfare check. The other residents went about their lives as if nothing was wrong. But Nikia wasn't going to wait any longer. On August 31st, 2023, Nikia contacted Bobby again. This time, she wasn't asking. She was demanding. "You're going to have to get in there so I can see if my daughter is in there," Bobby agreed. He and his boss went to Shaniqua's room. To get inside, they had to slide open a movable piece of drywall. This piece of drywall wasn't a normal door. It was a panel that could be moved to access her room from another area of the house. When they slid it open, they saw her. Shaniqua was lying face down on the floor. One hand was clenched tightly in a fist. The other hand was stretched out, as if she had been reaching for something, or someone. Her face was destroyed. Nikia later described it as smashed in. There were bruises all across her face. Her pants had been pulled down. There were injuries to her bottom area. The scene suggested the possibility of sexual assault. Nikia arrived shortly after. She saw her daughter lying there. She saw the position of her hands. She saw the damage to her face. "To me, it looked like she was fighting for her life," Nikia said. Bobby screamed when he saw the body. He immediately called the police. Nikia and her son were both there. They witnessed the scene with their own eyes. The trauma of seeing Shaniqua like that, broken, beaten, and gone, was something they would never forget. The police arrived and began their investigation. But for Nikia, the questions were already forming. How does a woman get beaten to death in a house full of people, and no one hears anything? How does someone fight for their life, and no one comes to help? And why did it take days for anyone to check on her, even when her phone was ringing constantly inside her locked room? After Shaniqua's body was discovered, the police began asking questions. And that's when the inconsistencies started piling up. 8 to 9 men lived in that boarding house. Most of them were in close proximity to Shaniqua's room, yet every single one of them said the same thing. Nobody knows nothing. Nobody heard anything. But here's the problem with that claim. Bobby Brickell admitted he could hear Shaniqua's phone ringing inside her room through the walls. Night after night, he heard it. The walls were thin enough for a phone to be heard clearly. So if a phone ringing is loud enough to hear, how is it possible that no one heard a woman screaming while she was being beaten to death? How does someone fight for their life, hard enough to leave one hand clenched in a fist, and not make a sound loud enough for anyone to hear? It doesn't add up. A community organization called New Era Cleveland decided to investigate on their own. Led by a man named Antoine Tolbert, they went to the boarding house and confronted the residents. The entire encounter was captured on video. The residents were defensive. Some were evasive. Others became hostile when questioned. One resident told the activists, "I didn't hear nothing. I didn't see nothing." But the activists weren't buying it. They kept pressing. And the more they asked, the more suspicious the whole situation became. Then there's the issue of the security cameras. The boarding house had a camera pointed directly at Shaniqua's bedroom door. There were additional cameras throughout the hallway and on the stairwells. These cameras were installed specifically to monitor who was coming in and out of the rooms. So when Shaniqua was found dead, the first question should have been, what do the cameras show? But here's where things get even stranger. The landlord claimed that there were hours of footage she can't seem to find. Hours of missing footage from cameras that were supposed to be recording everything. The police came and took the hard drive. They downloaded the footage. But since that day, they haven't returned to the house. They haven't provided any updates. And no one has said publicly what those cameras captured. Antoine Tolbert from New Era Cleveland pointed out something important. He said, "There is no way you can get in or out this house from her entrance without being seen on camera."
Her unit, there is no way that you can get in or out this house from her entrance without being seen on camera. So that means that someone had to take a separate entrance.
If that's true, then the footage should show exactly who entered Shaniqua's room that night. But there's a catch. The house had alternative access points that most people didn't know about. There was a side door with a fingerprint lock. Shaniqua's fingerprints were on that door, meaning she used it. But who else had access? Then there was the movable piece of drywall, the same panel Bobby and his boss slid open to find Shaniqua's body. This panel provided direct access to her room, bypassing the main hallway where the cameras were. There was also a back entrance that only residents knew about. What this means is simple. Whoever hurt Shaniqua likely knew the layout of that house very well. They knew how to get in and out without being seen. They knew about the drywall panel. They knew about the side door. This wasn't a stranger breaking in. This was someone who lived there, or someone who had been there enough times to know the house inside and out. During the confrontation with New Era Cleveland, the activists noticed something else. Bobby Brickell's hand was severely injured. It was wrapped up and looked bad, really bad. When they asked him about it, Bobby said he got drunk and fell on it during Labor Day weekend. Here's the timeline. Shaniqua died on or around August 31st, 2023. Labor Day that year was September 4th, just a few days later. Bobby claimed his injury happened after Shaniqua's death, but the injury was so severe that doctors told him they might have to amputate his thumb. That's not a minor injury. That's serious damage. Can you really get an injury that severe just from falling while drunk? Bobby said he had health complications that made the injury worse. When activists asked him directly if he had any history of sexual assault, he said no. But the timing of that injury, combined with everything else, raised serious questions. The police response only added to the frustration. One resident said that, after the investigation, police told him, "No sign of foul play. Your kids are safe." No sign of foul play. A woman was found beaten, with her pants pulled down, in a locked room. How is that not foul play? But then, in the same conversation, police admitted, young people your age just don't drop dead every day. So which is it? Is it suspicious or not? Despite the suspicious circumstances, no arrests were made. Police said toxicology results would take a couple months. But even now, those results haven't been made public. The family has questioned whether a rape kit was even performed. If it was, no one has told them the results. The case has gone cold. There's been minimal follow-up from police, and Shaniqua's family is left with more questions than answers. Now, I want to pause here because this is where things get even more disturbing. What do you think really happened in that boarding house? Do you believe the residents heard nothing, or is someone lying? Drop your theory in the comments. I read every single one. And if this case is making you as angry as it made Shaniqua's family, smash that like button to push this story to more people who can help demand justice. Because what happened next shows just how deep the community's frustration runs. During their investigation, New Era Cleveland uncovered something else. Just 2 weeks before Shaniqua's death, another resident in the house had been beaten. He was attacked so badly that he had to be sent to the hospital. Violence wasn't new to this boarding house, and yet no one seemed concerned about what that meant for Shaniqua. While New Era Cleveland was confronting the residents, Shaniqua's mother, Nikia, was fighting her own battle. She organized vigils and protests outside the boarding house. Family, friends, and community members gathered to chant, "No justice, no peace." Nikia spoke at these gatherings with raw emotion. "My baby's way up in heaven, and we want everybody to know," she said. "Somebody got to get that cup. My baby going to forever live through us." She refused to let Shaniqua's case fade into the background. She gave constant media interviews. She posted on social media. She made sure that people kept saying her daughter's name. Nikia wasn't alone. Shaniqua's brother, who had been there when they discovered her body, stood by his mother's side. Other family members joined the fight. They all shared the same goal: justice for Shaniqua. But this fight wasn't just about one woman. It was about something much bigger. Black women go missing and are murdered at rates that far exceed other groups in Cleveland, yet their cases often receive minimal media attention. Police resources are stretched thin, and many families feel like their loved ones are being ignored. Online, the Justice for Shaniqua Nickerson campaign began to grow. People shared her story on social media. Podcasts picked it up. YouTube channels like this one started covering the case. The community wasn't just demanding justice for Shaniqua. They were demanding accountability for all the overlooked victims, the women whose names never make the news, whose cases go cold, whose families are left without answers. Shaniqua's story became a rallying cry, and her family made it clear they would not stop fighting until someone was held responsible. Shaniqua's death highlights serious problems that need to be addressed. There are lessons here that could save lives. Let's talk about what can be learned from this tragedy. First, let's look at housing safety for vulnerable individuals. Shaniqua's living situation had red flags that others should watch for. She was the only woman living among 8 to 9 men in a boarding house. That alone creates a power imbalance and potential safety risks. If you or someone you know is considering a boarding house or shared living space, do your research. Ask questions. Find out who else lives there. Request background checks on residents and staff. A legitimate landlord should be willing to provide this information. Consider safer alternatives when possible. Women-only facilities or family-oriented housing can reduce risks. If those options aren't available, at least choose places with strong security measures. If you move into a place with security cameras, document where they're located. Take photos. Ask for written confirmation that the cameras are working and that footage is stored securely. Request access rights to that footage in case something happens. Install your own security measures. Get a secondary lock for your door, one that only you control. Install a peephole if there isn't one already. Consider personal security devices like door alarms or cameras you can monitor from your phone. These steps might seem extreme, but Shaniqua's case shows why they matter. Next, let's talk about family communication protocols. Shaniqua stopped responding to her mother's calls and texts. Nikia knew immediately that something was wrong because they communicated regularly. That awareness saved time, even though it came too late. Establish daily check-ins with trusted family members. Doesn't have to be complicated. A simple text message or phone call to let someone know you're okay. Use location sharing apps. These apps let family members see where you are in real time. If something happens, they'll know your last known location. Create an escalation plan for when someone goes silent. Decide in advance. If someone doesn't respond within a certain time frame, what's the next step? Who gets called? When do you contact police for a welfare check? Don't accept delays from landlords or maintenance workers. Bobby Brickell heard Shaniqua's phone ringing for days, but never checked on her. That delay was unacceptable. If you're worried about someone, demand immediate action. Don't wait. Community accountability is also crucial. New Era Cleveland showed what's possible when a community refuses to stay silent. Antoine Tolbert and his team went to that boarding house, asked hard questions, and documented everything on camera. Other communities can do the same. Form watchdog groups. When cases go cold or police investigations stall, apply public pressure. Document suspicious circumstances. Share information on social media. Make noise until someone listens. Support families who are fighting for justice. Show up at vigils. Share their posts. Amplify their voices. Sometimes the only thing standing between a cold case and justice is community pressure. Finally, we need systemic changes. Surveillance systems in boarding houses and rental properties should meet mandatory standards. Cameras should be tamper-proof with cloud backup, so footage can't just disappear. Landlords should be required to maintain these systems and provide footage to police immediately when requested. There need to be rapid response protocols for suspicious deaths. When someone is found dead under questionable circumstances, the investigation should be thorough and immediate, not dismissed as no sign of foul play. Police departments should have specialized units for cases involving marginalized victims. Black women go missing and are murdered at higher rates, yet their cases often receive less attention and fewer resources. That has to change. As of 2026, no arrests have been made in Shaniqua Nickerson's death. The case officially remains open, but it has gone cold. There's been little to no movement from law enforcement. The police have not publicly released toxicology results, even though they said it would only take a couple months. The family has asked whether a rape kit was performed. If it was, no one has confirmed the findings. There's been no public statement about DNA evidence, despite the clear signs that Shaniqua may have been sexually assaulted. The surveillance footage, the cameras that were pointed directly at Shaniqua's bedroom door, remains in police possession. But nothing from that footage has been disclosed to the public or even to the family. Nikia Nickerson and her family continue to seek answers. They continue to demand justice. But so far, they've been met with silence. The questions surrounding Shaniqua's death remain unanswered. Who was the last person to see Shaniqua alive? Was it Bobby Brickell, the maintenance man who gave her the edible? Or was it someone else in the house? What did the security cameras actually show? If the cameras were working, they should have captured who entered and exited Shaniqua's room. So why hasn't that footage been released? Why did no one hear the violent struggle? The walls were thin enough to hear a phone ringing. How is it possible that no one heard Shaniqua screaming or fighting for her life? Was there a sexual assault? Her pants were pulled down. There were injuries to her bottom area. If DNA evidence exists, why hasn't anyone been arrested? What role, if any, did the edibles play? Bobby gave Shaniqua half a gummy the night before she stopped responding. Could it have been tampered with? Could it have incapacitated her? Why has there been so little police follow-up? After the initial investigation, police essentially disappeared. They told residents there was no sign of foul play, yet they also admitted that young people don't just drop dead. Are any of the residents being actively investigated? Or has this case simply been abandoned? These are the questions that haunt Shaniqua's family. And until someone provides answers, they will keep fighting. Shaniqua Nickerson was more than a victim. She was a mother of 3 children who are now growing up without her. She was a daughter who brought joy to her family. She was a friend who styled hair and made people feel beautiful. She was a woman with dreams, struggles, and a life that mattered. Her mother, Nikia, made a promise at Shaniqua's vigil. She said, "My baby going to forever live through us." And that's exactly what needs to happen. We keep Shaniqua's story alive by saying her name, by demanding answers, and by refusing to let her case be forgotten. Shaniqua Nickerson deserves justice, her family deserves answers, and cases like this deserve our attention. If this story moved you, here's what you can do right now. First, share this video. The more people who see it, the more pressure there is on authorities to act. Justice often comes when enough people refuse to stay silent. Second, drop a comment with hashtag Justice for Shaniqua and tag Cleveland Police. Let them know the world is watching. Third, subscribe to this channel so you never miss updates on this case. If there are any developments, you'll be the first to know. Have you heard of similar cases in your area where victims didn't get justice? Share their names in the comments. Let's make sure no one is forgotten. And if you know anything at all, about what happened to Shaniqua Nickerson on August 31st, 2023, contact Cleveland Police immediately. Your information could be the key to solving this case. Until next time, remember, every victim has a story, every family deserves closure, and every one of us has the power to demand justice. Rest in peace, Shaniqua Nickerson. We won't let your story be forgotten.